sod's law, isn't it? The second I put that video up, I remembered a few more things. So I've decided in this video, I'm going to dedicate the first half of this video to a part 2 of the last video, adding in a few things that I think are possibly a little bit on the negative side. I'm going to try and keep it light-hearted, of course, and I'll end that section in something that I do like again, so that it's positive. The first thing that I thought of course, was a really obvious one, and that is fires. So you saw the tractor over there. I own a little bit of land, and it is required of me that I maintain it for the safety not only of myself but everyone else. And I know it looked nice and green and then went brown, but you know, safety first. And it is something that we have to obviously think about when we're out here. I don't let it niggle me in any way, because it's a reality of when you live in a hot country that has long dry spells. Some years you have wetter years than others, some years hotter years than others. But where there are people, there are going to be fires. Take UK last year, brief spell of 40 degrees, and there were a few fires. So it can happen anywhere. They do have little yearly gatherings here in the village, and I think they do it in most villages, just to have a run through to make sure that we're all clear what to do and where to go if there is a scenario that will require you to hot foot it out of your house. With my house, for instance, and it's just a home at the end of the day, and I'm going to see when I'm renovating it if I can do something to give me some protection. Stone house for a start is probably a good thing. But you know what? If worst case scenario happens, what do you do? Well, obviously it's going to be devastating, but as long as people aren't hurt and you're okay, then things can be repaired. So I guess I would just start again and rebuild it. Give me something to do. But yeah, it is a risk and it is out there, but there are worse things. Volcanoes. I don't live near a volcano. It's only a few things. The next one though is pretty obvious. It's flies and mosquitoes. Yeah, it's around now and then back in September that those pesky little insects like to come out and harass. The mosquitoes here aren't as bad as they are closer to the coast, or of course if you're anywhere near water. So I try not to leave buckets of water floating around, but of course I do have an outdoor shower. I keep the bus door shut at night, and over the windows I have a bit of mosquito netting so I can have them open and not worry too much about it. But of course, as a last bit of contact just before I go to sleep, I use my zapper, and this is a rechargeable one. It's only about €8 or something rechargeable. You can get cheaper ones with batteries, but this is absolutely brilliant. I should get another one really, so I can have one indoors and one outdoors. Love using this, great sound. And of course I do have the zapper, which I put on in the evening, and that just keeps them away from me when I'm sitting outside. So I also have candles, citronella, got spray. I think I have a wristband somewhere which I'll use if I'm going out somewhere, like when I went to the motor club, I would put that on me. It seems to work. And I have these, light them up, stick them in a tray. It's like a coil, and it just gives off this scent, keeps them away. Of course, there are other ways of doing it with, I believe it's lavender, lemongrass, and I'm sure there's plenty of others. It does seem to do the trick. I've tried them all, it does work, but it isn't terrible here. Flies. Now that is the bigger problem for me out here anyway, the horse flies. Especially when I'm on my dog walks, I'm noticing it a lot. I'm walking around like a windmill, waving my arms in the air, and yeah, it just puts off a nice pleasant walk. And of course I'm in shorts and flip-flops, which doesn't help. And the mosquitoes are mainly in the evenings, but I do put down some hanging strips from the ceiling here, which you've seen in my videos, and they just go to that and stick to it. Of course, then there's the moths, things like that, but they're not aggravating. They just tend to cover the whole of the glass area if I have the inside lights on. And it's quite funny looking through the window at just this sea of moths, but they don't give you any grief, so it's not big a problem. Yeah, wasps are a thing. Got to be a bit careful of those. If you watch some of my earlier videos, there was one, I can't remember which one it was, but I was on the roof with the dogs, and I sat down on some garden furniture, and I didn't realize underneath, tucked away, was this little brown cocooned shell, and they came out and basically went after us, and they can give you a nasty little sting, so you just got to be a little bit careful. I actually had one, this is a bit disgusting, but I had one last year that was underneath the mattress. It was on the wooden frame, and I could hear this buzzing noise in the pillow, but I couldn't work out where it was coming from. And when I checked, yeah, there it was, this little brown cocoon underneath there. So obviously I got rid of that. Just do a sweep around ever so often to make sure that they're not nesting, because yeah, it's not too bad, not too bad. Water is something we take for granted, and I definitely don't drink from the tap here, no matter where I'm living, and it is different in different regions, but here there's a high calcium content. Putting it through one of these definitely makes a difference. So even when I buy bottled water, I still like to fill this up. We have discovered a place just around the corner here where the locals get the water, and we take it, it's all right, because the guy who uses it is in his early 90s, so it's obviously not doing him any harm. So that's where I'll be getting my bottled water for the future, and just topping it up in this. Dehydration though, it is a thing, and you've got to be really careful. So I've mentioned this one quite a few times in my videos, and I don't need to go into it too much now. And it's probably based on the fact that, well, because of what I'm doing, I'm in contact with these people more than the average person would be. But when it comes to builders and when it comes to any labour work, it's really difficult to find the good people. I don't know what it is. The Portuguese people are complaining about it all the time to me, so it isn't just with the foreigners, but it is a thing out here, and you do need to be a little bit careful, and hence why I end up doing absolutely everything myself. It just makes life so much easier, and when it comes to pricing and so on, it can be all over the place. And because us foreigners can be a little bit gullible, because we're used to paying higher rates back where we're from, they can sometimes take advantage of that. I know one example of a lady, French lady, showed me around her kitchen. It was only very small. I reckoned that that kitchen was probably valued at around 1,500 euros, but the guy gave her everything and installed and charged her 8,000 euros. When I was speaking to her, she seemed to think that was all right. But if you work that out, 1,500, 3 days labour work in there, 8,000, that's a hell of a lot of profit. And I guess she felt a little bit silly afterwards, but the more people do it, the more they feel inclined to do it. So try and do it yourself if you can. One of the things that took me by surprise when I came out here are the winters. And it is a topic of conversation here. I mentioned this quite a few times. A lot of people plan to move out here, go through one winter and go back home again because they can't handle it. Mainly due to these old stone houses, has to be said, because right now, looking at the weather back home in England, where I'm from, the weather is colder there now than it is at any point during the winter here. But you really do feel it. But it's these old stone houses. The locals, the older generation in the wintertime, they all huddle in one room where the fire is. I don't know how they do it, but it is one of the things with these houses, and it is resolvable. Just need to work on how you're going to insulate it, and there are quite a few ways of doing it, of course, and if you could do it yourself, all the better. I'm of course going to be trying something in here that's going to give me a shorter winter, and the heating itself, aircon isn't that great because it's really expensive now. 50 cents per hour to run air conditioning soon adds up. So I'm looking at things like underfloor heater, or maybe the pellet burner will come in handy, but it can feel really cold, especially for me right now, because obviously the way I'm living, and when I have outdoor showers and that wind picks up and I have nighttime showers, oh, it can feel really cold. But if you want shorter winters, then you've got to make sure that your house is properly insulated. No problems with the newer builds, obviously, it's just these older ones. And it isn't I say a deal breaker, because it is fairly easy to resolve. It just takes a little bit of thought process. Okay, one last little thing here, and that is bureaucracy. Communication, it is a thing here. But you know what? It's a thing everywhere, isn't it? It's just as bad in the UK, and I'm sure it's just as bad in every single country on this planet. But boy, communication, yeah. Water meter here took 4 months. Electricity took 7 months. The house in the village, half a year. We're still waiting for the water meter. Now that is operated by the camera, and the camera is the council. And it's like getting blood out of a stone. I didn't have it on my first house when I was in Sombrage. Maybe Sombrage is different, but out here, you get pushed from pillar to post. No one takes responsibility. People give you half answers. They're not willing to give you a definitive. You do get the odd really nice person, of course, but on the whole, people just, not interested. And it can be really frustrating. Hence why in this area, extensions and so on, building a house, I've gone into it with planning, can take up to 5 years, and you're not guaranteed the answer you want. So 5 years, it's a long time, isn't it? And it's just sluggish. Of course, if they want money off you, they're like that. When I first set up my YouTube channel, I really had no idea what vlogging was. I just knew what I wanted to do, and it turns out there are many people that have done it way before me. And I do what every YouTuber does. I set up a Facebook, an Instagram, buy me a coffee, Patreon, and just went with it. So I can't go without saying thank you. I'm not asking for anything, but I have to say thank you to everybody that's been contributing one way or another. It's gone towards and only towards things that I've been breaking in making my videos, like tripods and cameras. And any little extras in there have gone towards treats for the dogs. I myself, I drink way too much coffee. Can you hear that? Bees, very loud. Really warm this last couple of days, 34 degrees centigrade. A bit warmer than it is normally this time of year. Takes a bit of adjusting to. Anywho, I'm forever scruffy. Hair's always a mess, always wearing old sweaty clothes. Because of what I'm doing, obviously. I'm keeping it real. I'm being honest. And I'm trying to look as comfortable as possible when I'm talking to a camera. And I'm hoping it comes across well. I still find it really awkward. So I thought I'd just inject a little bit of reality into my videos because of the last one and this one, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, how I am when I'm doing what I'm doing is exactly how I am. But there is a reality, of course, is that I'm still working and I'm just struggling like everyone else to get through life. I made some decisions a while ago and that's what got me here. There's no luck involved in it, but I did set up my YouTube channel because I thought maybe it'll bring me in a little bit of income further down the line. It's just one of those choices that we all make. This one happens to be my one, and I'm trying to push it in a certain direction. But the house in the village, it looks like now, after that one's done, I may not be able to renovate another house again because the prices have gone up so much and I just can't afford it. And maybe that's not a bad thing because it'll push me in another direction. I think renovating, not including my home, renovating 4 houses is enough really for anybody. It takes its toll and it isn't easy. And anyone that thinks it is, give it a go. It is of course inevitable that doors close from time to time, but then again, doors do open and that offers new opportunities, new challenges, a new fresh journey. That's exciting in itself. I have 1 or 2 ideas going forward. No matter what happens though, I am going to be enjoying it and going into it positively. And of course I will be documenting it. And with the language itself, I'm going to be honest here. And now I do know words and of course I pick things up. Just cannot differentiate words. It's really annoying because I know people can come out on holiday and know more in a week than I know in the 7 years I've been here. But I'm hoping in the next year or so that I'm going to be able to hold proper conversations with people and understand it all. I obviously believe if you're going to live in another country, you've got to speak the language, of course, and I'm a bit ashamed of it, but that is the reality of doing what I'm doing, all the sacrifices you do, and that includes the language, which should have been a priority. But I'm trying to learn everything I'm doing and trying to input that into what I'm doing, and that's taken up all of my time. So yeah, that is the reality. By the way, when I sell the house in the village, when we sell the house in the village, I will make a video on that, the buying and selling part. I did want to do that, but I didn't want to do it just yet because I'll be going by my memory and I'll make mistakes. Whereas if I'm doing it at the time, I'll be able to make sure that I don't miss anything out. So look out for that one. Hopefully that won't be too far away. So there you go. Just thought I'd share that with you. Nothing difficult, nothing complicated, keeping it light-hearted, easy to watch. Just my reality, hence real Algarve living. But I have got something quite serious to mention now because my sunglasses sadly have come to an end. James and Christina bought these for my 50th birthday and they've been all through my videos. Been about 4 or 5 different colours, had 3 different sets of lenses in, but now they're not repairable and they don't make these anymore. I am truly gutted. I think they're gonna have to go on the memory wall. It's such a shame. That's why it looks like I have so many pairs of sunglasses. Time for a pit stop. Look at that. Fresh off my neighbour's tree. It's been in the fridge for a few hours. Gorgeous. What I'm doing now is just getting a little hole through there so we can run the conduits through, which will feed to the plug sockets in the kitchen and the extractor fan. Noggins are in, conduits are in place, all ready now for the ceiling to go up. But we're not going to be doing the ceiling just yet, as I mentioned, because it's time for the floor. Unfortunately, it is a bank holiday today, so that little bit of metal framework that I need to finish off around that stair is going to have to hold off till tomorrow, because I need to get some raw plugs. And messy. So we'll be starting the floor tomorrow, but before I can do that, I need to, on both sides, this side, not as important, the other side, is go over that again and get it sanded, because we obviously don't want to make a mess up there after the floor's down. Good. Sand that down in the morning. Oh, the smell, it's amazing. I always skip breakfast rushing out the door, but we've got to get that house in the village finished. So what better way to start the day than with a bacon and egg butty? Oh yeah. And a little something, of course, for the boys. And my finger. Not to forget, of course, cup of tea. Oh boy, it's really hot out there. It's really grabbed me. So we are starting the flooring today. James is already up here now. Got the laser level out. And well, James, he's the expert in this field, and I'm going to be his little helper. I've got a few things to do downstairs on the lower section, and when he's ready, I'll see if I can participate and help him put this down. What are you doing first?
Doing the step.
Why are you starting on the step first?
You have to follow the eye as you walk up the stairs, so I'm getting a visual point. It's easier to build this area here and then work back that way.
Right.
So we'll get this lined up, so as you walk up the stairs it's all straight. It doesn't matter if it feathers out against the walls, you're not going to notice that. This is the most important visual spot. So this has to be 100% right, otherwise if it's slightly crooked or, you know.
Yeah. Gone out this morning and got me some raw plugs, so I can now start this section here, because we want to continue, as I've mentioned, the plasterboard going all the way down to the step. Get that sorted out, then back up there, and then we'll come back in here. wise that I would just cut that out first to check, make sure I got my measurements right. Now I think we're getting pretty close. Right, got that out of the way. How's James getting on? A little bit muggy today. Back at the house, it is Friday afternoon, because this morning I went out looking at a van. That was quite exciting, or as exciting as it can be, looking at an old van. But I think, hopefully, next week I might be able to get this sorted out, because it's been 2 weeks since I've had any transport, which has been really frustrating. Quad bike, obviously, but that's no good for shopping trips. So if we can get that sorted out, brilliant. Back on it. My car looks like that's going nowhere. I will be bringing it back to mine, and I'll worry about that once I've got this house finished. Too many things to think about at once. In the meantime, James has come to a grinding halt up here because he's got something in his eye. So he's just chilling out a little bit. He's got quite a lot of this flooring down. It's been a little bit more fiddly than he was hoping, some warped boards, so he's had to trim them and so on. But it is starting to look really nice. And when that's sanded, it's going to look great. Back down here in the meantime, I didn't do any videoing yesterday. I didn't realise we were that close to May. I thought we were in the middle of April for some reason. So it is really time to knuckle down again. I'm going to continue in here while there's some daytime left, where I put the trimming up there. I want to tidy it, because any little thing that we do now is making a huge difference. And it is very satisfying given what we've been doing up to this point. James on Monday, he's going to stop what he's doing on the flooring and fart around with the wiring, get all that sorted out in here. Then he'll continue up there, and I'll get the ceiling up, put the lights in, work my way down here, get it all boarded, and boy, is that going to make a huge difference. I'm just going to show you this little bit, because I did show you this section on an earlier video, because we've had to come away from the wall. It was just a decision that we made, make our life easier, but there was a little bit of flexing here. So I'll put battens behind, all of them secured in place, and that has really firmed this up. Behind there, I'm going to put insulation. Doesn't need it, but there's a neighbour's house there, bathroom there, neighbour's house there, and our garage there. It just dampens the sound, I guess, all that echoing, and, you know, can never have too much insulation, can you? Obviously in the ceiling there's going to be lots. So when we've done that, it's time to clear out this entire house. I know I keep saying difference and change, but it really is feeling like that now. I can then start at the front, work my way this direction, and get the entire house painted, and clearly that is going to make a huge difference. Then we'll get all the flooring down throughout this house. Then start in the bathroom, get that suite in there, then the kitchen, get all that in there, snag list, work our way out that direction towards the courtyard via the garage, and we're getting very close to getting this house near completed. And that obviously is going to be lovely because it's warming up outside and it's starting to get a little bit uncomfortable. I know I keep saying I want to get back to my house, but the weather does play a role in it. Back to that. Hello, gorgeous. So I've just got back a second ago, munching on something, and checking through my emails. I'm pleasantly surprised to have received this one. And I'm going to show you this angle now of my house, because a subscriber, a guy who watches my videos, sent me through this. And I can only assume that he's done a screen grab from one of my videos. At least I hope so. The patio doors, pretty much exactly where I explained, and that roof, using the old tiles from the village house, adding a little bit of character. The only thing that's slightly off is my wall on the right hand side isn't quite as long as that. But overall, really lovely to see that. Definitely given me some inspiration, much better than I could have done. So yeah, brilliant. Being a bit cheeky though, because I sent him back a photograph of the front of the house and the side, seeing if he could do something with that. So if you do, Larry, I'll pop it in next week's video. Love stuff like that. Thank you. Right, quick beer in the village, brush up on my Portuguese. Cheers. Yeah, I'm gonna have to crack open another beer. This is too much fun. Bring it on. Mesmerising, much better than a movie.